Hello, my friends, and welcome to the introduction episode to the Artist Study Unit. I'd like to begin by just going through and talking about the overview for this project before we get into the packet and what will be required of you. So the actual project itself is really exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys choose to make for this one. You are going to be going through a list of 50 artists that I have compiled for you, and I have pictures of all of their artwork that you're going to be able to look through and just choose the ones that are most interesting to you, and then you will be narrowing down the artists that you find most appealing because you're going to be using them as inspiration for your project. Notice that I said inspiration, that we are not copying pieces directly because we want to make sure that we are avoiding plagiarism. So we'll be talking a lot about that during this unit, but we are choosing an artist to study in depth. You'll be going through and completing the art criticism steps for one of their pieces. You're going to be trying to figure out what the distinguishing factors are for their style of artwork, so that you can apply those same distinguishing factors in your own work so that you can be completing an artist study and learning from them. So you're going to choose an artist. We're going to brainstorm ways that you can change their ideas to make them more your own. And then you're going to be creating a three-dimensional artwork out of any material that you would like to use. So for this, I have clay and paper mache available for you, but if you would like to work with anything else, any other materials, it could be something that you bring from home like water balloons, it could be paper clips to make a wig, I don't know. Like there's tons of different possibilities that you can do with this, but the only materials that I can provide to you are clay and paper mache. Now that you know what the project is, I would like to go through the packet with you because this is a full unit that you have all collected in this one packet. So I would like to go through step by step to break this down and make sure that you understand what's expected of you for each part and phase of this project. On page number 1, it starts out by just explaining what we went over briefly, just the general idea of what you're doing for this project. But then it has a list of 3 steps that you're going to complete. So you can see the first step is to go through the artist study slides in the PowerPoint that's provided. So you can find that in our OneNote folder for this project that's called the Artist Study Unit. So you can look for that folder and you'll find the PowerPoint there. I want you to really take your time when you're going through these slides because there are a lot of different images here and it's easy to get overwhelmed, but it is really important at this phase of the project that you take your time looking through and make sure that you select an artist that works well with what you're wanting to do. So you're going to go through and look at those artists, and then next for step number 3, it says to place stars next to your top 5 favorite artists. So this is a list of all of the artists. They're in order of the slides so that it's easier to help just go through and find them. And you'll be able to just go through and place stars next to the ones that you found the most interesting to look at. So at this phase, it's really just about the artists that you're drawn to, not necessarily, oh, I want to make a project that looks exactly like their piece. So you're just going through and placing stars next to your top 5 favorites that were most appealing to you. For page number 2, the purpose is really to help you determine which artists would be a good fit for you as an artist to use as inspiration to study from. So you're going to go through and answer some questions like what 3D materials you're interested in working with. Remember that it doesn't have to be clay. You are going to answer what your most successful 3D project has been so far. Since you're in an advanced class, you might consider playing off of your skills so that your project can be the best that it can be. Next, I ask, did any of the images include some of your interests? So it does matter if you're actually interested in the topic that you choose, because if you pick something that you have no connection to at all, you might not be as engaged while you're making it. But if you're interested in architecture or surrealism or fashion, then you could choose an artist that focuses on those things specifically so that you can be a little bit more engaged while you're working. Next, I ask if there were any pieces that you would like to own, because this is your chance to make something that's similar for free. So that's pretty cool. So consider what you would like to actually own. Something that I think will be really important to remember for this project is that these artists have been making this same style of artwork for years and have a super high level of expertise. So I am not expecting you to go into this project at that same level, because I know that you have not been practicing this style for that many years. So if there was an artist that you were drawn to, or that you had a connection with, consider the fact that you do not have to make it up to that level of expertise. So were there any artists whose artwork you would like to focus on, but that maybe it would be helpful to simplify their artwork? The next question is really reminding you that you are changing the ideas from the artist and you are not copying their pieces directly. So with that freedom, were there any artists whose projects interests you and then sparked a new idea? So it doesn't have to be copying something that you saw directly. In fact, it shouldn't be. But were there any artists whose project inspired a different concept for you? Next, I ask if there were any pieces that you were really drawn to or that you felt connected to, because that's a great way to stay engaged throughout this unit. Were there any pieces that you looked at for longer than you looked at the other pieces? That's a really good indicator of whether you were interested in it or not, so that's something to consider. And finally, I ask, which of these pieces did you feel a connection to the most? Pages 3 through 8 in your packet are all of the slides that I provided, just printed out for you to be able to reference while you're working on this packet. So at the very end, you'll notice that there's a section labeled having a hard time choosing an artist. So if there were not any artists out of those 50 that you were really drawn to or that you felt a strong connection with, I encourage you to try to find another that you're really interested in. So I did provide a list of additional three-dimensional artists that you could consider researching, or you could try to find your own. And even if it's just a person who you found that creates 3D pieces on Etsy, then I would be fine with that. So just consider looking up more artists if you were not very drawn to any of the others from this packet. On page number 9, you're going to complete a brainstorm based off of 3 different artists' projects that you were drawn to the most. So you're going to narrow your list of 5 artists that you chose at the beginning down to your top 3. So you're going to go through and write the artist's name, and you're going to draw their artwork in these first boxes. So it can just be like a simple sketch. Don't stress about making these drawings perfect, because this is just a brainstorm phase. The next picture you're going to draw is a sketch of your project idea. So remember that these should not be exactly the same as your artist's piece. So you're going to go through and sketch out your idea, and remember, it can be based off of their concept. It could be based more off of their technique and be a different concept, but it really does need to come from you. So to help you determine whether it's different enough, I have you list the changes that you could incorporate from their idea to your idea. I would also like for you to write down the materials that you would use, because remember, you have the option of clay and paper mache from me, but you could also bring in random things. You could find stuff for really cheap. I know that there are a lot of furniture stores that have boxes that get rid of cardboard. You could even bring in recycled things. You could find some old trash that people didn't want and then upcycle it. So there's a lot of different possibilities for the materials here, but I would like for you to list out what you would use for each artist as inspiration. Once you've filled in the table for all 3 of your different artist choices, you're going to turn to a neighbor at your table. Please do not get up and go find a partner at a different table, but turn to someone at your table and you're going to talk to them about your different options. You're going to discuss which project would be most interesting for you to create, what changes you would be making, what materials you would be using, and you're going to discuss with that person to help you narrow it down to your top 2. Once you've narrowed it down to your top 2, place stars next to those 2 artists, and then come up and check with me. We are going to discuss together out of your top 2 choices which one would work best for this project and which would work best with your skill set. So we'll discuss that together and then narrow it down to your top choice. So after you've come up to do your first check, you will have your artist that you are going to study for this unit. In addition to completing your one-on-one check-ins with me, you will also be completing what's called your unit tracker assignments, which means that you're posting photos of all of the work that you've done so far, and this will be how you earn your points for the pages you've completed in your packet. The first tracker assignment is tracker assignment number 1, the Brainstorm, where you're including photos of both pages 2 and 9. Make sure that they are high quality photos that have been cropped so you can't see the background. You'll post them together on the specified slide, and then you'll continue on to post the name of the artist that you chose to complete the artist study project on. Once you've done this, you'll go back and delete all of the necessary instruction slides that are related to just tracker assignment number 1. Once you've deleted those slides, you'll go back and save this entire presentation as your last name, first name, AS, and then Brainstorm, and you'll submit that for 20 points for this first assignment. Once you have decided on which artist you're going to study for this unit, you're going to complete the artist research portion of this packet. We'll begin the art criticism steps. So you're going to go through and draw out the piece, and you can choose any of their pieces that you found interesting, but preferably one of the pieces that you're going to be using as reference for your project, which means that it's either based off of that concept or based off of the technique that you're using as inspiration. So you'll sketch out the piece here, and you'll complete step number 1, which is to describe what you see. So you're explaining with such great detail that someone who hadn't seen that piece before could have an understanding of what it looks like. Next, you're going to complete step number 2, which is to analyze. So you're going to answer how the artist used both the elements and the principles to enhance the design of their piece. As you can see in the instructions, it says write objectively. So that means that you are just providing facts. This should not be your opinion quite yet. It might be helpful to grab the 3-dimensional elements and principles packet because they might feel just a little bit different when you're working with a 3-dimensional piece, and that can be really helpful to help you decide which elements and principles your artists were using. So you're going to explain those here. Next, you're going to complete step number 3, which is to interpret. So for this step, you are writing subjectively. So that means that you are including your opinion and your thoughts about their piece. So this is not just the facts any longer. With this step, you're going to explain what you think the artist is trying to say. What is the deeper meaning of their piece? What were they trying to do with their artwork? So you're going to explain your opinion on that topic. The second portion of step number 3 is to discuss how the artist used the elements and principles to help evoke those feelings or to help create the meaning behind the piece that you described. So you're going to discuss how the artist used specific elements and principles to create those feelings. The fourth and final step for art criticism is judgment. And again, you will be writing subjectively, and this is entirely your opinion and your thoughts and feelings. But you're going to answer whether you like this piece or not. And hopefully you do, because you selected this as something that you're using as inspiration for your own project. So I would like to know specific things that you liked about it. You're also going to explain why you liked those specific parts by using evidence from the writing that you completed before. You're also going to answer whether you were drawn more to the concept or more to the technique and aesthetic of that piece created by your artist. The next step you'll complete is on page 11, and it's called Distinguishing Factors. And this section is really meant to help you decide helps create that artist's design style. So this is where you're going to write out a list of things that could help a person recognize that artist's artwork out in the world. So if they were out at a museum and they happened to see this artist's work, they would be able to recognize it by this description list of things that they should be looking for that create that artist's design style. Also consider that this will be a list of factors that will help you infuse your artist's style into your project, because you do need to have influence that's very clear and connected to your artist, and this is a great way to help you do that. The next section on page 11 is your reference photo page, and this is something that you have to have a physical copy of. And what you're doing is finding a minimum of 3 photos of artwork by your artist. And if you're having a hard time finding them just like by Googling them, you're welcome to just copy and paste them directly from that PowerPoint that I provided for you. So if there were only 2 images of that artist's work, and that's all that I included on the PowerPoint, then 2 images is fine. So you're going to print those out and try to fill the page. I feel like students often print them and they're like teeny tiny and it's really hard to use as reference, but I would like for you to try to fill the page, and you'll print them out just black and white here at school.
Next, you'll complete a one-on-one check with me, and after you will complete your tracker number 2 assignment, the artist research. You'll include both the artist research pages that you've completed in your Brainstorm, and you'll include the reference photos that you found for the second portion of your artist research. Then you'll delete all of the instruction slides that are related to tracker assignment number 2. You'll resave the entire presentation, and then you'll submit for 20 points.
For page number 12, you're going to begin on your final draft, which is super exciting. You've done a lot of work to get here. You're going to begin by listing which materials you're going to use to create this project. And remember, you are not limited to clay or paper mache. You can use anything that you'd like as long as you're able to bring it in. Next, you're going to write a list of which distinguishing factors you are going to incorporate to help infuse your artist's design style into your piece. Next, you're going to write what changes you're going to make to help avoid plagiarism. So you're writing a list of what will be similar, and most importantly, a list of what will be different so that you're not copying directly. Next, you're going to complete 2 detailed drawings of different possibilities. And I feel like this is a phase where students get kind of wrapped up in the fact that you've been working on this for a while and the fact that you feel like you have your best idea figured out. And so oftentimes I'll have students draw just one. And my request is that you do actually draw 2 different possibilities. And even if it's the same concept, but you're tweaking something that's a little bit smaller, that's perfectly fine, or they could be 2 totally different ideas. But I do want to see 2, because oftentimes your first idea might not be your most creative idea because it's something that popped into your brain so easily. You want to be kind of challenged to come up with your best ideas. Once you have finished your drawings for both of your options, you're going to first discuss it with a neighbor at your table, and then you're going to come up and complete your second artist study checkpoint with me. We'll be looking at both of your options and discussing which ones will be the best option for you for this project. At this checkpoint, you're going to receive grades for the rest of the work that you've done since our last checkpoint. So make sure that all of your pages are complete before you come up and see me. The 13th and final page that you'll be completing for this packet is your project planning page. And for this, you're going to just use the space that's provided at the bottom to help you figure out any details, make sure that you have an understanding of how your project is going to go together. And remember that this is an advanced level project, so you should be trying to figure out some intricate plans before you begin. Otherwise, it may turn out a bit too simple for the level that you're working at. If you are working with clay, you need to answer these questions to make sure that you don't have any errors or problems with your project.
After you've completed your one-on-one check-in with me, you'll begin working on tracker assignment number 3, the final draft and your planning page. You'll post photos of both of those pages from your packet. You'll delete all of the related instruction slides. You'll resave under the specified name, and then you'll submit. After you've turned this in, you're going to be allowed to start working on your final project. And while you have work time for your project, you'll be completing 2 more check-ins on your tracker. The first will be for progress check number 1. We'll have an individual meeting, then you'll post your progress point, and then you'll complete progress check number 2, where you'll do the same thing, a check-in with me, and then post your second progress photo.
On the very last page of your packet, you'll find the rubric that I'm going to be using to grade this project for you. So I provided all of the categories so that you would know exactly what you need to do beforehand to get the best grade possible.
Before you turn in your final project, we'll have a very important one-on-one meeting where we'll discuss whether you've met all of the requirements from the rubric. Then you'll complete tracker assignment number 6, which is submitting the final project. The first will be where you complete a rubric and you score yourself, where I come in behind you and score you as well. Then you'll post another where you are posting a photo without the rubric so that it's just a picture of your project on its own. And then you'll be posting one where it is next to the reference photo from your artist of choice. The final assignment that you'll post for this unit is tracker assignment number 7, where your project will be painted or glazed. The really great part about completing your assignments in a unit tracker is that at the end you'll have a collection of slides that show your hard work from start to finish for this unit, and I'm really excited to see how they turn out.
I know that this may seem like a lot of prep work and a lot of planning before you actually get started working on your project, but at this level that you are working at, I really do think that the planning is what makes the difference. That's why I have so many steps, that's why I have so many questions to help you try to find the right path before you begin, because I think that that's a really important part of the artistic process. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys make with this project. I think your projects are going to be unbelievable. So I'm really excited to see what you do with this. So let's go ahead and get started.
Thanks for watching!